What is consciousness? I'm going to try to explain this the best way I can. Okay, so this is what I got. Consciousness, a composite of multiple processions of data compiled within a larger composite of subdimensions that can process and reinterpret data / input. Now let's start with a CPU, which is technically an artificial type of intelligence. Now you have a cell, like we are composed of many cells that are processing data. Well, we'll start with the CPU. This is a transistor. And there are millions of transistors all in conjunction with each other in a matrix on a micro scale within the CPU. Each one of these transistors alone process data. But within a matrix of them, in a higher dimension, you have a whole CPU. So you have multiple processions of data. And in the higher dimension, you have one whole procession of data with many microprocesses within it in a binary 1, 0, 1 or IOI, Ready Player One. All right, so the brain. This would be a spark gap. This is the synapse between the two nodes here, which are analogous to transistors over here, but these are your neurons. Now, those are even in a matrix. Each one of these processes data, not precession, but procession. Process. So each one of these are in a configuration in conjunction with others, and this would be the spark gap, the light, the arc, the spark. And this is the data, because our brain literally does produce light. The neurons actually produce light. This form of communication involves light that neurons, indeed all living cells, can generate light and may use this to send signals or messages to each other. So our neurological system is technically a fiber optic system. And it's a floating fiber optic system. It floats around in saline solution in our bodies. And the substrate is our flesh, our muscle. It's exactly like the ctenophores. Now they produce light in their floating nervous systems. This is the crown, which would be analogous to our brain, and these are what tentacle out as our nervous system, and this right here would be our spine or our spinal cord. Now stars, same thing. Now there's a theory that stars are conscious. Well, that can apply, that can be true, and it can't at the same time. Now, like these transistors that are processing data, the stars are also processing data. It's energy, which is one reason CPUs get really hot. Now within that data processing, and you have those bound to other data processors, all bound as one galaxy. Now you have multiple processes of data happening within one giant processor of data. And even that constitutes part of the universe. So like each cell in our body, these galaxies are essentially cells of the universe. And each one of these are also processing data, just like the universe is metabolizing energy. So it's a composite of processions. Again, not precession, processions. So you have your human brain. Now, with the pyramids, you have the main CPU, or the giant transistor, or Khufu's pyramid, and like a motherboard, you have your North Bridge processor, which is Khafre's pyramid, and then you have your South Bridge processor, which is the pyramid of Menkaure. Now, with the brain, this is your limbic system, which is your limbic core here, in conjunction with the North Bridge processor, which is your cerebellum, which actually bridges the limbic system to the cerebral cortex, and that's your North Bridge that bounds these two together. And of course, the main pyramid that processes the light data, because Akat means glorious light, and pyramid means pyramid, fire in the middle. That's the main CPU. That would be your cerebrum. So the universe is atoms, which are data, which is technically a nuclear Y and an X electric 1 and 0. So technically, these ones and zeros of energy are the software and the hardware. Because technically, you have your data. That's what everything is composite from. That's what tells everything how to work and operates it. And then it's also physical building blocks. So the data, or the ones and zeros, nuclear and electrical energy, is actually it's data, which is software, and it's actual physical hardware. Because it's energy, which is like a metabolic function, and it's physicality, something you can actually touch. So consciousness is a data procession in a binary matrix of light. So light, data, and CPUs all go hand in hand. Light, data, in the human brain, or any brain on Earth for that matter, go hand in hand. Transistors go hand in hand with CPUs, and neurons go hand in hand with brains. And stars go hand in hand with galaxies, and galaxies go hand in hand with blood cells, bone cells, nerve cells, any data being processed by cells. Because you have multiple processes of mitochondria within each individual cell in your body. The consciousness is built through higher dimensions of data processes, meaning you have no consciousness individually, but when you combine it all together, the higher dimensional realm will signify a conscious state, even if it's artificial. Now, the universe makes us, and we make this artificial intelligence, which makes this artificial intelligence technically not artificial because it's actually viable and usable, and it's interactive, meaning it's just as real as anything else. But since it wasn't created naturally by the universe through natural processes, and it was processed through a processor, which is our brain, then we would consider it artificial. But in this aspect, in reality, technically, there's no such thing as artificial intelligence, only non-biological living intelligence. Because technically, even the universe is biological. There's organic structures and organic molecules, compounds spread all throughout the universe and our galaxy. So that's what I believe consciousness is.